opposed, and she don't even play on the team anymore. So the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty debuted at 743,000 views, which is a super win. You know what I'm saying? We all could agree on that. That's a win. Almost did 1 million. To the WNBA on Ion telecast of the first preseason game of the year between the Indiana Fever and New York Liberty on Saturday, April 25th, delivered an average audience of 743K. That is an increase of a plus 76% over Ion's first preseason game of the season.
The WNBA landscape is shifting, and the numbers don't lie. Before a single regular season game has even been played, the Indiana Fever are already breaking records, pulling in viewership figures that have the entire sports world paying attention. Nearly 1 million people tuned in to watch a preseason game. Let that sink in. A preseason game. Not the finals. Not a rivalry showdown in the final seconds. A preseason game in April. The Caitlin Clark effect isn't a theory anymore. It's a movement. And it's only getting started. But here's the thing behind all the excitement, all the record numbers, and all the buzz. There are some real questions brewing inside the Fever organization. Injuries are piling up, coaching decisions are raising eyebrows, and a massive matchup against the Dallas Wings is right around the corner. So, let's get into all of it. 743,000 viewers for a preseason game on Ion. Let that number sit with you for a second, because that figure is genuinely remarkable when you put it into context. The Indiana Fever faced off against the New York Liberty on Saturday, April 25th, and the viewership numbers that came back were nothing short of extraordinary. A 76% increase over Ion's first preseason broadcast from the previous season. That's not a small jump. That's not a slight uptick you can chalk up to casual interest or a slow news day. That is a seismic shift in how people are engaging with women's basketball, and it happened before the regular season even got started. Now, to be fair, almost hitting 1 million viewers for a preseason game is the kind of number that would make any league executive sit up straight. For context, these aren't playoff stakes. There are no championships on the line. Players are still shaking off rust, coaches are still experimenting with rotations, and half the roster is being evaluated for cuts. And yet, nearly 1 million people decided to tune in anyway. That tells you everything you need to know about where the interest level is right now around this team. The Caitlin Clark effect has been debated, dissected, and discussed endlessly over the past year. Skeptics have questioned whether the attention would last. Critics have tried to minimize it. But you simply cannot argue with a 76% viewership increase in a preseason window. The numbers are the numbers. The league is growing, the Fever are at the center of it, and the momentum heading into the regular season is undeniable. There was one thing that took the shine off the announcement though, and it's the kind of blunder that makes you shake your head at whoever approved it. Here's where things get a little embarrassing for the Fever's marketing team. When the viewership numbers dropped and the buzz started building online, the promotional image that went alongside the announcement featured Natasha Howard front and center, which would be completely fine except for one small detail. Natasha Howard doesn't play for the Indiana Fever anymore. She's gone, off the roster. And yet, there she is, front and center on the poster being used to promote the game and celebrate the viewership milestone. It's the kind of oversight that makes you wonder what exactly is going on behind the scenes in the marketing department. You've got one of the most talked about teams in women's sports right now. You've got Caitlin Clark drawing eyes from across the country. You've got a 76% viewership increase to shout about. And the image you choose to put out into the world features a player who isn't even on the team. It's baffling. And fans were quick to notice. Social media lit up almost immediately, with people pointing out the error and calling for the image to be changed. Some fans brushed it off as a minor administrative slip. Others saw it as a sign that the organization's marketing infrastructure hasn't quite caught up with the moment they're living in. When you're experiencing this level of growth and attention, every detail matters. Every piece of content you put out represents the brand. And getting something this basic wrong is hard to overlook. To be clear, it doesn't erase the achievement. The viewership numbers are real, the growth is real, and the excitement is real. But if the Fever want to fully capitalize on this moment, the off-court execution needs to match what's happening on it. And speaking of what's happening on the court, the fans have a lot to say. The reaction online to the viewership numbers was exactly what you'd expect from a fan base that's been riding this wave all season. Comments flooded in almost immediately, with fans celebrating the milestone and pointing directly at Caitlin Clark as the driving force behind the surge. The CC effect. One fan wrote simple, direct, and pretty much impossible to argue with at this point. But it wasn't just celebration. Fans were also quick to clap back at the marketing blunder with the Natasha Howard poster, with multiple people calling out the error in the comments and demanding it be corrected. That kind of engaged, vocal fan base is actually a good sign for the league. It means people are paying close attention, they care about the details, and they're invested enough to speak up when something feels off. Beyond the poster situation, the general energy around this team right now is electric. Fans are hyped about the Liberty matchup. They're talking about the chemistry they're seeing in practice footage, and the anticipation for the regular season is building at a pace that feels genuinely different from previous years. There's a sense that something real is happening here, not just a flash of attention driven by one player's popularity, but an actual cultural shift in how people view and follow women's basketball. The conversation isn't just happening among die-hard WNBA fans either. Casual sports viewers, NBA fans, and people who never gave women's basketball a second thought are suddenly tuning in, posting about it, and following the Fever's journey. That crossover appeal is exactly what the league has been chasing for years, and right now, Indiana is the team making it happen. But all the buzz in the world means nothing if the product on the court isn't ready, and that's where things start to get a little complicated. Away from the viewership headlines and the social media chatter, the Fever have been putting in serious work behind closed doors. Practice footage that's been circulating shows a team that looks locked in, competitive, and hungry, exactly the kind of energy you want to see from a squad, with championship aspirations and a fan base expecting big things this season. Head coach Stephanie White held a press conference that gave a detailed look into what the team has been building over the past few weeks. The themes she kept coming back to were pace, space, movement, and tempo, the kind of offensive philosophy that, when executed properly, is genuinely difficult to guard. White mentioned that the team has been adding new offensive elements this week, and the ability to absorb and execute those additions quickly will be a key test as they head into the second preseason game. What stands out from the practice reports is how competitive the environment is internally. White specifically praised the quality of depth the team has, noting that players are genuinely challenging each other every day, making it difficult to get comfortable and pushing the standard higher in every session. That kind of internal competition is exactly what separates good teams from great ones. When your toughest matchup every day is your own teammate, you arrive at game time ready. White also noted that they've been getting quite a bit of live action in practice, which helps maintain sharpness and rhythm heading into preseason games. The coaching staff is clearly managing the workload carefully, scaling back volume where needed while keeping intensity high. The foundation being built here looks solid, but not everything is running smoothly. There's an injury situation hanging over this team, and depending on how it plays out, it could have real consequences when the regular season tips off. This is the part that's raising eyebrows. Aliyah Boston and Lexie Hull, two of the Fever's most important players, are both dealing with injuries, and the updates coming out of the press conference weren't exactly reassuring. Ty is also being monitored carefully. White's response when asked whether any of them would play in the upcoming preseason game was measured and cautious. The plan, she said, is to potentially get some of them minutes on Saturday, but there's no rush, and the team will take it slow. On one level, that approach makes sense. It's preseason. The regular season is what matters. You don't want to aggravate an injury chasing reps in a game that doesn't count in the standings. That's a reasonable, professional way to manage the situation, and White is clearly prioritizing long-term health over short-term appearances. But here's the other side of that argument, And it's a legitimate one. Preseason games exist specifically to give players game reps, not practice reps, not controlled scrimmage reps. Real, live, competitive game reps against a different opponent in a different environment with real pressure. If Boston and Hull skip both preseason games and then step onto the court in the regular season opener, there's a very real question about how sharp they're going to be. Game shape is different from practice shape, always has been. The concern isn't just about fitness. It's about timing, chemistry, and the rhythm that only comes from playing actual games together. If the Fever open the regular season with key players who haven't had those reps, and those players struggle to find their footing early, it could cost them in the standings before they've even had a chance to get going. White's defensive philosophy might be airtight, but it only works if the right players are on the floor. If there's one thing that comes through clearly from Stephanie White's press conference, it's that she is a details coach. Not in a vague, buzzword kind of way, in a very specific, technical, this is exactly what we're fixing kind of way. And the area she's zeroing in on heading into the second preseason game is defense. White identified closeouts as a major problem from the first preseason game. Players were getting beat off the dribble too easily, and the initial positioning was breaking down before the help defense even had a chance to kick in. Her phrase for what she expects from her players is guarding your yard. Each defender is responsible for 1 yard to their right and 1 yard to their left. Simple concept. Unquote. Incredibly difficult to execute consistently at the professional level, especially early in the season when habits are still being formed. The other concept she kept coming back to is one way goes. The idea is that the defense is designed to funnel opponents in a specific direction, and if players allow the offense to go the other way, the entire defensive structure falls apart. It's a system-based approach that requires every player to be in the right position at the right time, every single possession. When it works, it's suffocating. When it breaks down, even for a moment, it creates open looks and easy baskets. White also acknowledged that some players are still unlearning habits from college or their off-season training tendencies that worked at lower levels but don't hold up against professional competition. Breaking those habits and replacing them with disciplined, system-specific behavior takes time and repetition. The defensive identity White is building is clear. Whether the team can execute it with full personnel, including the injured players, is the real question heading into Saturday. The second preseason game brings a genuinely exciting matchup, the Indiana Fever hosting the Dallas Wings at home. And this isn't just any preseason tune-up. Dallas came into the offseason with serious momentum, back-to-back #1 picks headlining their roster, and a free agency period that White herself described as outstanding. They are a team with real talent and real ambition, and they're going to present the Fever with a very different set of defensive challenges than the Liberty did. White mentioned that facing Dallas gives Indiana an opportunity to guard differently, to put their defensive system to work against a different style of offense, different personnel, and a different strategic approach. That kind of varied exposure in preseason is genuinely valuable, especially for a team that's still building chemistry and installing new concepts on both ends of the floor. Coach Jose on the Dallas sideline is someone White spoke about with clear respect, describing him as an outstanding coach who will have his team prepared and ready to compete even in a preseason setting. That means the Fever can't sleepwalk through this one. Even with the understanding that preseason results don't define a season, the competitive instinct to win every possession doesn't turn off just because the stakes are lower. The home atmosphere is expected to add another layer to the matchup. Coming back to their home floor with the crowd behind them, the Fever will have an energy boost that could make a real difference, especially for players who are still finding their rhythm early in the preseason window. Nigeria is also mentioned as someone who will present unique defensive challenges on Saturday, giving White's defensive unit yet another different look to prepare for. With so much building around this team, the real question is, can they deliver when it counts most? The Indiana Fever are at the center of something genuinely historic right now. The viewership numbers are proof of that. The energy in practice, the defensive philosophy being installed, the talent on the roster, all of it points toward a team with real potential to do something special this season. But potential means nothing without execution. The injuries to Boston and Hull need to be managed perfectly. The defensive habits White is demanding need to become second nature. And the Caitlin Clark effect, as powerful as it is, needs to be matched by wins on the court, because a fan base this engaged will celebrate success but won't accept excuses. The regular season is coming fast. The spotlight has never been brighter. Now the Fever have to prove they're ready for it. Whether they rise to the moment, that's the story worth watching. Stay locked with my channel, Simply Explained, for more WNBA updates.